Hi guys, how we doing? We are here for another Meathead Minute. November has come to a close. You may notice that as I don't have a mustache right now. It is gone, thank God. But November coming to a close means we are about to start Deadcember. And so in honor of Deadcember, which is the month of deadlifts, we are going to talk about the king of all lifts tonight, and that is the deadlift. I apologize for the dog enjoying this video as well. So to talk about deadlifts, we need to first establish a few things. One, as always, what are your goals? Two, what are your injury patterns? And three, what is your training experience? And that also involves the aspects of mobility, stability, which I won't go into detail on those two aspects, but basically, can you get into the positions properly? Can you move through them properly? I love deadlifts. They are my favorite exercise, and as a strongman, I use them very frequently in my training. In fact, with Deadcember coming up, I will be pulling every single training session, some variety of the deadlift. And we could talk about a few of those varieties tonight and why they're important for specific goals, etc. So to start out, I want to go back to something that John Paul Sigmarsson once said. If you don't know who he is, you need to go look him up. He said that there's no reason to be alive if you can't do deadlift. And that's actually pretty accurate. It's the most functional of all lifts. If you're not able to bend over and pick something up off the ground, you're probably in trouble from a functionality standpoint long term. Your fall risk is going to be higher. Anything that you have to take off the ground, so for example, if you drop your wallet, your phone, these are things that are very light, but if you can't get into the proper positions, you can actually injure yourself picking those up. Not to mention something heavy that you have to pick up like a child or a dog or anything heavy that you have to move out of the way, grocery bags, etc. Now, does this mean your average person needs to pull a 700-pound barbell deadlift? No, absolutely not. And that's where we need to start delineating some things. The standard barbell deadlift is probably not the best exercise for your average gym goer. I know some trainers are going to get mad about this, but it's really not. It's a difficult exercise to learn properly, and it's very easy to injure yourself. It has a much greater moment arm on the lower back. In addition, it's really, really easy to round that spine and injure yourself if you haven't been coached up properly or if you have poor mobility. Enter the kettlebell deadlift. Kettlebell is going to be a little bit closer to you, going to be easier to pick up, it's going to be smaller, and you're going to have to squat down to get it. That's a very good intro movement for somebody trying to learn the deadlift and learning how to hinge. Learning how to hip hinge is extremely important for the deadlift and will protect your lower back, but we don't have time to go into all that right now. Something else to progress into for people who are not trying to be strength athletes but still want to lift weights is the trap bar deadlift or the hex bar deadlifts, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be a little more quad focused and a little less back focused. Once again, you're going to be squatting down a little bit more, reducing some of the moment arm on that lower back. This can also be useful for strength athletes, power athletes. In fact, for most sport athletes, not strength sport athletes, so your team sport athletes, football, basketball, baseball, etc., the trap bar deadlift is probably a better movement because there's a lower injury risk and you can get some of those same benefits. I don't really think it's necessary for most team sport athletes to learn how to pull a really heavy barbell deadlift. Now, if you're a strength athlete, that all goes out the window. You need to learn how to pull a heavy barbell deadlift. Strongman, you need to learn how to pull a lot of different heavy deadlifts. Frame, axle, barbell, elevated deadlift, farmer's deadlift. You name it, you have to learn how to do all these different types of deadlifts. And that means different muscles that are getting worked. For example, the frame deadlift is a little bit more like a squat. I hate frame deadlifts. If you're watching my videos from nationals, I'm clearly not very good at them. But that's a story for another time. My personal favorite deadlift is anything elevated off the ground. It takes a little stress off the lower back. And since I tend to be a little bit slower off the floor, I like those. They're also a good progression when coming back from injury to start higher and progress lower as you improve your mobility, as your lower back gets better from the injury that you've had. Another great variation is snatch grip deadlifts, puts a lot more stress on the upper back, lengthens the range of motion, so kind of the opposite of those elevated deadlifts. And the axle deadlift obviously is going to put a lot more tax on your grip. Different bars can be used, but that's a different conversation. But what all of this information culminates to is that you have to deadlift. I don't care what your goals are, you need to be able to pick up something reasonably heavy off the ground to live your life. Because like John Paul said, there's no reason to be alive if you can't do deadlifts. Just for accountability for December for you guys, if you want to join me, you're perfectly welcome to. Just be smart. If your body can't handle that type of volume, or if it's violating your training program, or if you just have crappy technique, I don't want you to get hurt, so be careful. I will be posting on my story every day to show accountability for December. I started a day early because I had trap bar pulls and deficit stiff legs tonight. If you have any questions about deadlifts, why they're good, they will not hurt your back if you do them properly. I will say it again, deadlifts are not bad for your back if you do them properly. Period. End of story. Yes, they can be a dangerous movement if done incorrectly, but for God's sakes, if somebody tells you that deadlifts are bad for their back, talk to somebody else because they're an idiot. All right, guys, that's all for deadlifts, and happy December. Dr. Meathead out.